How did we get this far? Human beings have an immeasurable desire to discover, to invent, to build. Our future depends on us furthering these ideas. A responsibility that rests on the shoulders of generations to come. But with every new discovery, there is risk. There is sacrifice. And there are consequences.
Be ready for what's coming.
What is coming?
The answers.
Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So this is going to be a breakdown of the teaser trailer. So a lot of things different about the film from the original films or even the comic book origin story, so I'll try to explain as we go along. Generally, think of it as like a version of Chronicle if it were done like David Cronenberg's The Fly, which actually sounds pretty exciting. The easy into this is that this is the Brian Michael Bendis, Mark Millar origin story from Ultimates. So just read Ultimate Fantastic Four, you should be good to go. If you're going to borrow from comic book people, Millar and Bendis, very safe bet. In this version of the origin story, the characters start out as teenagers, and Reed Richards develops a form of teleportation as a child. He gets bound by a benefactor who inducts them into a program which becomes like the Proto-Baxter building. It gets into End Zone stuff, so if you're not familiar with the End Zone, just read the Ultimate Fantastic Four, just read the first run. In that comic, their first big villain was Mole Man. But it's basically like our first step into multiverse. So Fantastic Four is getting to multiverse. So Fantastic Four is getting to multiverse before the Marvel Universe, before the MCU is getting to multiverse. So we have to give them a high five for that. So let's just start with the big Easter egg that Simon Kinberg was teasing. He's the screenwriter. He's a big man on campus with the X-Men films. He works on the X-Men films a lot, and he also works on Lucasfilm on the Star Wars films. He's a really cool writer. He said there was going to be a big Easter egg in the trailer. Turns out it's in this Sue Storm scene when she's looking at all the monitors. If you look at the IP address here, it actually points to Marvel's wiki page for the nation of Latveria. So it looks like we will see some Latveria in the movie. What they're calling the movie is a contemporary reimagining. I know everyone also wants to know if this is going to be connected to the X-Men films. Unofficially, it is. Officially, it stands on its own. I think they're slowly getting to the place where they can do X-Men Fantastic Four crossovers. So going back to the beginning now, if you're not familiar with Josh Trank, he's mostly known for doing Chronicle, which is actually a pretty fun movie. He also just signed on to direct one of the Star Wars spin-off movies. So he's something of a rising star. So if Lucasfilm thought he was good enough to do Star Wars, then I think it bodes well for this film. This is just a skyline shot of New York City, which is probably buried underneath snow right now. Young Reed Richards getting himself into some scientific trouble. The basis of their powers isn't going to be a cosmic radiation cloud. It's actually going to be a teleportation experiment. So here's another one of the slight modifications. So the basis of their experiment is funded by the military. Instead of being scientific, the US military is looking for teleportation technology. Here's our first big shot of Miles Teller as Mr. Fantastic. If you haven't seen him in Whiplash, you need to see that movie. He totally killed it. Casting him is like a big 180 from previous iterations of the character, and I'm actually really happy with this change. Mr. Fantastic in the comics, if you read him, is very cold. He's a very cold character, very hard to read. It doesn't always play well on screen, because he kind of comes off as a dick. He's obviously a very wide-eyed scientist, very young in this, like this is a very young version of the characters, but I'm interested to see what kind of pathos he brings to the role. Like I said, just watch Whiplash, he has this crazy intensity in the movie, so I'm expecting something like that in his performance. Kate Mara as Sue Storm. This is actually where we get our first big Easter egg, this IP address down here that I mentioned. This is Jamie Bell as Ben Grimm, aka The Thing. I'd say of all the roles, he's probably going to have the most fun. Usually it's the villains that have the most fun, but being Ben Grimm, you get to just be absolutely crazy. Smashy smashy. Here's Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm. I know a lot of people were wondering, what the relationship between John and Sue Storm was going to be. They'll still be brother and sister, and Michael B. Jordan is an amazing actor, so as weird as it might seem that they're changing the characters so much, I think it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm more worried about the ability of the actors than them doing an exact carbon copy of the comic. This is Dr. Franklin Storm. This is obviously Johnny Storm's father. So the characters go through the classic transformation sequence. This is going to be probably one of the most fun things in the movie. Watching characters get their powers, probably one of the best things about superhero movies. Here's our first shot of the thing. There was some behind the scenes stuff that leaked earlier, but I actually think that these finished effects look pretty amazing. So here's our first shot of Johnny Storm as a Human Torch. If anybody has been watching The Flash this season, this actually kind of reminds me of the particle accelerator explosion, except metahumans are just going to be popping up everywhere. You have to remember, Marvel is the one doing the Inhumans, not Fox. Although it does kind of remind you of a Terrigen bomb. This is the shot of Toby Kebbell. He is playing the Victor Von Doom character, although they're slightly changing the character. His name is Victor Domashev. He's going to be like a computer hacker. There's not a whole lot of information about his character beyond that, so I'm gonna wait to talk about him until we get some more official information. So here's a better shot of Human Torch and Invisible Woman. And Mr. Fantastic getting ready to use his powers. Obviously, they're going to hold off on those. I'd say of all the Fantastic Four's powers, Reed Richards' powers are the weirdest, so I totally understand why they're going to wait to show those off. Like, setting yourself on fire looks pretty badass, but just like stretching yourself a lot is just kind of weird. That's why a lot of times I think when you see him in the more recent comics, like the New Avengers comics, he's busy doing crazy Illuminati stuff, not like stretching himself around all over the place. If there's any crazy alien that I would like to see them do any crazy invading force, it would be the Skrulls. If they did Shi'ar, I think that would show up in an X-Men film, not Fantastic Four, but I think Skrulls would totally work in Fantastic Four. That's really where the rights flow from. But let me know, do you guys want to see them try to do Shi'ar with the X-Men films and Skrulls with the Fantastic Four films at some point? All in all, the trailer makes me very hopeful for the film, so we'll see. It's coming in August, so we will get at least 3 or 4 more trailers before then, so we'll see some more footage. Once we get to the summer, like Comic-Con, they'll probably start promoting the hell out of the film. So I'm expecting them to do something pretty big at Comic-Con. So once we start getting some more footage and some more information about the film, I'm going to be doing more bonus videos for Fantastic Four in the comics and what's going to be different about this film. So be sure to subscribe to get all that stuff. So don't forget, new episode of The Flash tonight, Pied Piper's coming on, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's actually a Reddit AMA going on for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I'll post a link in the description. Right now, while you guys wait for that, you can click here to learn all about Gorilla Grodd's origin story in the comics. He'll be coming on The Flash this season. And you can click here to catch up with what's going on in Marvel Phase 3. Thank you so much for watching. So let's all high five. I'll see you guys tonight.